On today's video, we're going to make pastels using our own pigments. Because of its purity and pigment density, pastels make some of the most beautiful works. Here's what we'll need. The first step is to get and prepare your pigment. This is a Hong Kong gray pigment I collected by sweeping some streets in Hong Kong. I sifted the material through a metal sieve to obtain a fine powder. To extract more from the material, I lit a small fire to break down the organic matter. For more traditional sources of pigments, you can dig and collect earth from various locations. You can get a surprisingly large variation of colors from the ground. Just make sure you break everything up and sift it in order to get a fine powder. To make the pigment into a stick form, we'll bind it using gum tragacanth. A powdered form is best as it will dissolve more easily. To prepare the gum tragacanth mixture, wet the powder with a little ethanol. Give it a good mix, then slowly add water while stirring. It will form this thick gel. As you stir, try to get rid of the lumps. I tend to leave this overnight so the mixture is fully saturated and settled. The mix recipe is in the video description, but you'll want to make a couple batches with different amounts of gum. Pigments can behave quite differently, so you will have to do some testing. Here's a good starting point for what ratios to test. To form a hard pastel, mix some kaolin into your pigment. Kaolin is what's used in many facial masks and porcelain pottery. Here I use a 1:1 ratio of pigment to kaolin, but again, test for the best ratio. More kaolin will make a harder stick, but will also draw knot as well, like a 2H pencil versus a 6B pencil. However, the kaolin is important to give your pastel more structure, preventing it from crumbling like a typical soft pastel. If you want to make a soft pastel, just leave out the kaolin. Scoop a dollop of the gum tragacanth, then slowly add the pigment and kaolin mixture. I recommend wearing a dust mask whenever you're working with pigments or fine powders. Thoroughly mix it with a palette knife, adding enough pigment to form a soft dough. When you touch it, it should be damp but not sticky. Once ready, form the pastel dough into shapes. I prefer my sticks of pastel in cube form, but round sticks also work well. At this point, resist all temptation to try the stick. Leave it to dry for at least a day.
24 hours later.
Then it is good to go. While simple, this process can be labor intensive. But as the sculptor Brancusi once suggested, create like a god, command like a king, and work like a slave. Hope this how-to helps you make something awesome. Thanks for tuning in.